start off with ugly ads. Just pull your phone out. And just be like, boom, 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 and just do it.
It's not about what you upload. It's the strategy in which you upload content.
One, people can't discover and know who you are if you're behind the camera all the time. If I handed you the keys to a Lambo, you're going to wreck that shit.
Oh,
no, like, you know what I mean?
Especially if you've never driven one. Make it simple but sophisticated.
Yeah.
Right? Like, just be very intentional with the content that you're doing. The big thing is, though, you're never going to know unless you do it. Yep. And it is an investment, yep. Right?
But what if? Like, that's always the biggest thing. It's like, what if, like...
What if it works out,
yeah,
though?
Bro.
And big thing with that, too, is people really overcomplicate it. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another episode of Dude, I Want That Job, the educational podcast that helps you find your desires and passions through other people's job and life experiences. My name is Kyle Kindle, and today I am super excited to announce that we have Mr. Evan Andrews in the building. What's up, brother?
What's going on, Kyle? How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you. Thanks for making that drive in today from Katie.
It's no sweat, dude. Once you start working with people all across the Houston area, you learn that it's just one big
loop.
Yeah.
Did you go down 45 or did you go that way around
No, 45.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess just a quick little intro about you. What I found on your website and through your Instagram content, you are the owner of Vandrews Media, which is a Houston-based content strategy creative studio that works with brands and businesses to create powerful and impactful content. Does that sound about right?
Yeah. And I've also added on recently sort of a coaching offer for what I deem my past self.
Okay.
So that might be somebody kind of like you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Other videographers, other creatives out there that want more out of their skills and abilities and just don't know how to do that for themselves.
I love it. How long have you been going down this venture of coaching others?
So the coaching thing, this is what's crazy, is it's actually really, really fresh. A little bit of a backstory for me. End of 2020, the whole COVID thing happening, everything like that. I got COVID at myself at a job that I was working at. Had to leave. And I couldn't come back until I had a negative test, but it was just weeks and weeks and weeks of just testing positive. I felt fine, right? But it got about 6 weeks in and I'm like, I'm not getting paid at this point. And it's like, yeah, I can't wait around any longer. Like I need money. So it was like, I quit and I had been getting inundated with ads from a coaching program for videographers on how to grow and how to scale. So I was like, dude, screw it. Like that, this is what I guess I have to do. And I ended up joining that program. That program for me was a year. And by the end of that program, I had some success with it. I learned how to, craft an offer, sell it to clients and make more money than I ever had, as a videographer. And at the end of my time in that program, the owner of the program, he came to me and he was like, dude, like you learned a lot. I hope you had a lot of fun. He's like, we're trying to grow some more. And I don't know if you might be interested in helping coach a little bit. And I was like, and I had never thought to myself, like, yeah, you're like a teacher, bro. Cause I'm a recluse. I'm quiet. Like I'm not this, like, I never envisioned myself as this like leader or anything. So I was like, I mean, sure. Cause it seemed like, it was like, okay, this is some guaranteed income that might take a few hours a day. Like it was really chill. So I was like, sure, why not? He asked me what I thought I would, be best at in coaching. And I was like, well, I learned a lot about, how to run and set up your ads and like the CRM that we were using and all of that. And I was like, I can do that. And he was like, great. Cause that's like the first thing that I don't want to do. I was like, okay, sure. Yeah. Like no problem. And it's just kind of blossomed into, like I've been a part of a community as, I guess, as a job, but also as like also learning and seeing other people go through things and really still refining and honing my own skills. And now as a coach, like been doing that for 2 years. It's just been like, it's been a stellar opportunity. And it was after I joined another mastermind at the end of July that I went to their collective and I was like, I had a come to Jesus moment, like up on top of this hill in Arizona in Scottsdale, where it was like, I'm around all these coaches. You're already coaching part time. I was really just in this community to learn their way that they do their marketing. So social funnel.
Yeah.
I was like, there's something here that I just don't know what it is. So I joined. That's the reason that I joined the community. And then I got there, and it was just like I was up on the mountain, and like the sun was setting, and I was like, you have split attention to what you're like really trying to do. And I was like, you can make more money and have the life that you want coaching versus being like a done for you service through videography for other people. Now there is still parts of me that likes that aspect, and I like creating for people, but I'm refiguring out what that frame looks like for me right now. I think I've found it, but it's like I'm back at square one with both of my offers, but it's new challenges. So
No, and I think to some extent, right? I feel like with videographers, there's two different avenues that I've seen through social media, right? And just through talking with other people. You have either you become an agency owner and then you automate your business, right? And you win back your time through having videographers and people doing
the work.
The work.
Yeah.
And you're more of the creative director, or you go into like a coaching model, which I think is great. And we talked off camera. There's a lot of video coaches out there, and I think that I don't see any problem with either one of those options. I think it really just depends on maybe where you as the individual feel like you can bring the most value to
100%.
People. And for me, like being in the military, I was like, man, like I wonder if I would ever be a good coach. I love people. I love helping people, but I don't want to be a coach, right?
Yeah.
Like that's not really my.
Well, you say that now. I said it too.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like you never know. Like it could change.
It could. But I mean, with the studio and like me, like my goals would always just, at the end of the day, I would love to build out this creative studio, eventually franchise it, maybe make a franchise model. But just to really just have an agency to where, yeah, maybe, like if anything, I feel value in coaching younger videographers within my business, right? Like, hey, this is a good way of doing it.
Yeah.
And now, don't get me wrong. I think what you said in regards to giving the lifestyle that you want and how it gives you that freedom. I'm seeing that in the program I'm with right now with my coach, right? I think it is very admirable and it is very enticing to see, wow, you're making $40, $50, $60,000, monthly recurring revenue, and all you're doing is jumping on a couple coaching calls because you've already done the framework and you've built the engine.
Yep.
Now it's just maintaining and checking the oil.
Yep.
So yeah, there's two different ways, like we said off camera, to skin the cat. And I don't think there's any right or wrong way of doing that. Now, I guess a question I have for you is, what role has coaching played in helping you identify and overcome the biggest blind spots in your business?
Sure. Yeah. So coaching definitely. So one thing that we do in the program that I coach for, not my program, but one that I coach for, is we have this thing called a time audit. Right. So it's like one thing that when people are feeling bogged down or like they've hit a bottleneck, but they don't really know what it is we uncover, is editing the thing that you're doing too much of? Is it that you realize that you're scrolling Instagram too much? Or like, what is it in your day that's not allowing you to like push forward and do the things that you want to do? So I think coaching will come in and kind of like you check you into the boards, like the hockey term, you know what I mean? Like, they'll really pull to light the things that you might not think might not be bad, right? But they're not advantageous to what you actually want to achieve. So it's really the accountability side of like putting you in check and realigning your perspective of how to actually have the things that you want. Because it's very easy. And like we said this off camera, like a lot of the stuff that we see on the internet, a lot of it's not real. Right, a lot of it's kind of this Fugazi framework of things that just make you feel as somebody like you're not worthy, or on the other side of that is that it's something that is really, really easily achievable. I just posted a reel the other day. I was going through some of my coaching clips, and there was like a little spot in there when we were getting on the call and everything. And somebody said like a joke in the group call, and I kind of laughed and I chuckled, and I put in like a text overlay that said, when you DM me the word simple and get my sequence on how to grow your video business, but then you ghost me because you know that it's actually work. And it's like a 3-second clip of that, just that rolling. So it really helps you get really in line and in tune with what it is that when you first sign up with any coaching program, like you come in, you're like, you're pumped. It does uncover a lot of bullshit though. Like where it's like, you have to come to terms with yourself kind of thing. And, you know, prior to me getting a coach and coaching other people myself, you know, I didn't go to church. I didn't do anything like any stuff like that. But when my dad passed away, me and my wife, like we made it an active decision. Like there's forces in this world that are working against us and for us. And it's our job to like tune into those frequencies and really pay attention to them. So I think coaches kind of are like a median bridge to like the universe and like ourself. Like they can come in and step in and be like the physical thing that some of us need to be like, hey, here, focus, right?
You're like a guide.
Yeah.
No, I think you're right. And I guess with that, a question I have for you would be, so from before you got into coaching, or before you even had your first coach to where you're at now, you know, what is that difference? Like, did that coach, you know, you see it all the time, like, oh, I can guarantee you $10K a month. Like,
dude, I hate those offers.
Same. But with that, like, what are some of the results that you actually got through coaching? Because I know there's people probably out there and they're like, oh, here we go. Here's another coach. Like, but, you know, what are some actual results or growth metrics that you had within your business that you only can accredit to maybe having that guide?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, so I'll give it to you like this. My coach, so my yearly income that I was making at the job that I was working, a regular 40-hour-a-week job, all of that, I probably made 48 grand the entire year. My first real year of going through my video business, I made, I think, just under 60 grand. So it was like already, like I'm doing something that I like, I have more time freedom, and I'm making more money. So it was like, that was an instant like, oh yeah, boom, perfect. Now, is there a different stress level with kind of going that route? Yes, for sure, because it's not like a thing where, you know, you close the door, clock out for the day, you kind of just leave the situation and you come home and then you have your other arena that you're in. You're always, when you're an entrepreneur, you're always, it's always there, right? So, and especially if you're like me and you work from home and you have kids and a wife and all of these things around you, it's even more challenging, right? Like that's why I like your setup here, because you can kind of pull yourself out of that where you need to. And I strive for that one day, but it's not in my immediate path right now, but it's there. It will be there. It's just I have to keep, you know, staying true to what it is that I want and know what I can achieve for myself.
No, I think that's great. And, you know, the one area that I think having a coach is so valuable, and if anything, when you think of any sport and what a coach does, I know, just thinking back to when I played sports as a kid, I think a lot of people really just lack accountability.
Of course.
And I think if anything, you know, a thing that is so fantastic about having that subject matter expert, and the fact that you're paying them, so there's skin in the game, is that accountability. Like, I know I have a call with my coach tomorrow. He gave me actionable things that I had to do this week. Thankfully, I've done them. But, you know, 2 weeks ago when we had our last call, dude, I was scrambling. I'm like, man, like, this isn't working. I don't want to talk to him and tell him like this isn't working. That is. So it's like it puts the pressure on in the right areas.
It does.
And I think that that's one of the most fantastic things about a coach.
Yeah.
Is, dude, they are, one, in your corner, but two, they're your accountability partner to where if you don't do it, they're going to give you that tough love, bro. Yeah. They're going to give you that tough love.
They will definitely, you know, be that voice that's, because we all in our head, we're our own voice of reasoning. They'll be the one that'll be like, bro, you're fucking up.
Yeah. No, totally. And so going back to your last job and kind of when you made this transition from a W-2 employee
Sure.
to being a full-time videographer, especially because of the pandemic, what did you struggle with? Like I know in today's day and age, instant gratification, and you mentioned it earlier of they want that get rich quick.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what works now? You can make me 10 grand a month. Cool. I want to make 10 grand next month.
Right.
You know, with everything being instant gratification and along those lines, how can brands or even videographers balance that need for quick results with long-term goals and at the same time build trust and loyalty within their community or within their page? Like I know so many people want to ramp up quick, but sometimes like
Sure.
you can't.
Yeah,
Right?
no. I mean, so one thing that I never really did for myself, because I think, and when I go into this, it'll probably overall arc it and align it. But a lot of videographers, they're always behind the camera, right? Get in front of the camera. Make content for yourself. It doesn't necessarily have to be like we see the like valuetainment style stuff, talking head, whatever. But like if it's literally like I saw this one kid today, he was just doing like a video diary. Like that was it. He was like, yeah, today I did this. I was supposed to do this, but I messed up and I didn't. And like it like there's just these little short reels about like his journey. Like
Vulnerable.
doing something like that will put in perspective what it actually takes to be successful in this. One, people can't discover and know who you are if you're behind the camera all the time. That's number one. The only other way that you can fast track that is paying for ads. But most people don't have the budget to start out and like really pay for it. Like, because in our coaching program and in mine and the one that I coach for, like we tell them, you know, start off $20-$30 a day, right? And that's $600 to $1,000 a month. That is pennies to Meta. Like there's people spending 10 grand, 20 grand, 50 grand a day.
They're like, you're irrelevant.
Yes, they're like, whatever. So in understanding that too, that also is a mental shift of like, oh no, it's not just like a right now thing. Like I have to stay consistent, and it's more on that longevity game than it is the monetary game of like having all this. Because yeah, if you had a bunch of cash infusion and I had $100,000 that I could say, I could waste all of this in the next 6 months, I could probably make myself famous if I really wanted to.
You could Ramosi yourself.
Yeah, but I don't want to do that, right? Because that's another thing too about like, and I've said this before on some other pieces of content and everything, but you know, we see those guarantees like, oh, make this much money in this amount of time, yada, 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 right? If I was coaching you, right, and you started making 40 to 50 grand a month because the things I was telling you were working,
Mm-hmm.
you wouldn't know what to do with yourself.
No.
You wouldn't, because you've never been there. Like it's like when athletes come into the leagues, like they get all this money and they don't really know how to do it. That's why they get the advisors, right? To like really tell them what they should do and how to set themselves up for success. But we're so big-eyed with those guarantees that it's like, oh yeah, that would be awesome. But if I handed you the keys to a Lambo, you're gonna wreck that shit.
Oh,
Like, no, like you know what I mean?
especially
Like,
if you've never driven one.
I don't even care if you have. You might still wreck it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's just, you know, it's about longevity, honestly, and understanding that and Hermosi said this on a podcast too, like everybody drastically underestimates the amount of inputs that it takes to be great.
Mm.
And that is what I preach because I do the coaching for the ads in the program that I coach for. And it's like, they come in, they're like, we made an ad and we posted it for 2 weeks and nothing happened. And I'm like, yeah, because you made one. Like, dude, you got to make more. You got to try more. You got to test more messaging. Like,
What's your so let's talk about that for a second, because obviously we're at the end of Q4,
Mhm.
right? We're going into the new year. It's an election year. It's going into the winter time. Usually per average, you know, this time of year is fairly slow from a marketing standpoint. Holidays are right around the corner. What are some tips that you have for people, small businesses, medium-sized businesses, or videographers wanting to run ads in a market and a time of year that we're in right now?
yeah. So it's funny that you're saying this because I had a coaching call yesterday with the program that I'm in, and my coach was saying the same thing. Apparently they call this Red October or something like that. Honestly, I will be forthcoming and truthful right now. I'd never heard of that.
Really?
Never heard of it. Now, I've heard of the mental thing around like the holidays. People don't really want to spend money. Like I've heard that one too. But my first coach, he preaches that some of that is like a cousin to a limiting belief, because there are a lot of people out there who actually need, in companies that need to unload money, or else they have to pay taxes on it at the end of the year.
Great point.
Right. So
Great
it's
point.
like, it's really, it's what ideology do you align with? Because whatever you align with is what you're going to believe, and that's going to be what manifests. So it's kind of like, yeah, that can kind of be there, but do you align with it? Right. And if you're diligent on your ability to follow up with the leads that you've gotten in the last 3 months or whatever, however long it's been, things will come to fruition. People will spend money. It's just, are you going to stay up with that? Or are you going to lean on, yeah, it's just that time of year. You know what I mean? And
sure.
So that's kind of the way that I look at it. So I try not to bring myself down in that mental aspect of like, oh, like, because the more that once you start leaning on the back of that, you're going to lean on the back of, oh, well, it's just this, or, oh, it's just that, or, oh, and you get into that mindset of like blaming other things other than possibly the fact that maybe you're just not doing enough right now.
Yeah. And there's this quote I wrote down from Will Keenan, and it's not about what you upload. It's the strategy in which you upload the content. So like, so many people are like, oh man, like that ad wasn't good enough. Man, that ad didn't have enough transitions. Oh, I don't know if I got the right point across. The fact is, though, you're moving the needle, right?
Yeah, of course.
Put it out there.
Yeah.
Oh, you're not getting, your cost per click's $19, or you're not getting any leads. Okay, well, let's look at your ad now. Maybe it's something in your creative or your copy, right? And then do another one. Do another one. So it's all about the strategy.
Yep.
But the fact is, you're moving the needle. And if you just sit and speculate all day about, well, this one isn't good, I need to wait a couple more days until I get this, you're never going to do it.
Yep.
So you
100%.
just got to get out there, post the damn ad.
We preach in the program that I coach for, and I even tell this to, people that I talk to in growing my own program, is that, you've heard the term ugly ad? Yes or no?
No.
Okay, so ugly ads, like there's whole programs and groups around this out there on the internet where they're like, stop wasting your time on these big budget, extravagant, whatever. Like, make an ugly ad. It could be you driving in the car and it's your script, right? It doesn't matter. Most of what doesn't matter is the visual. Now, the visual can help from a standpoint of possibly lowering your CPM because the watch time was longer on the ad or whatever. But nine times out of 10, what gets people all the way through your ad is if they resonate with you and resonate with the message that you have, right? So if you have something good to say and people watch it all the way through, it doesn't matter what it looks like. Because even if it does look good, but the message sucked and the thing, didn't hit hard, like they're not going to take an action anyway. So it doesn't really matter. So what we preach is like, start off with ugly ads. Just pull your phone out.
I was
and
just
be like,
UGC
boom,
style.
boom, 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 and just do it. Because that, one, doesn't take as much fulfillment on your end. And then two, you get, it's a faster feedback loop of like, I can do this now, boom, post, and go, right? And as creatives, as videographers, we probably struggle with that the most too, because we're trying to also be our own case study at the end of the day, right? Like, we want to show these nice visuals to show what we can do, but it might be disadvantageous to the overall process in us trying to just get over that first little hurdle.
Yeah, I think it's, if there's any industry that struggles with imposter syndrome the most, it's ours. And dude, I can't tell you how many times I've rewatched ads that I've made, like, not good enough. That hook wasn't good. Oh, that
Doesn't matter.
Like, dude, I've been there for like 2 hours editing a 30-second like ad just to make it look perfect. Where at the end of the day, like, I remember I posted an ad. I don't know if you've seen it on mine. It was the one talking to realtors. Bro, I put so much effort into making it like sick. And bro, my cost per click was $19 and I had one lead and it was a fake. It was a fake. Like, and I was like, you've got to be kidding me. This is a fire ad.
Yeah. No, we always think what we're doing is going to be the thing. Like, we go through all that time of like 3 or 4 hours just on one creative in the edit. And it's just that, I think, is the thing that ends up like crushing our mental state more than like the understanding of like, did it work or did it not work? It's because we know what we put into it. And that also goes back to kind of that instant gratification kin of like, did all of this and nothing happened, so I want to give up. Like, but you can't. Like, you have to try another thing. You have to try another thing.
With you being a coach, what are some areas what are the two biggest pain points that you see within videographers or with some of your clients as to why they're not making consistent content, or what are some limiting beliefs that they're having as to why they're not where they want to be?
Sure. So that can kind of be two different answers depending on the person. So I'll start with like just general like entrepreneurs, business owners who aren't making content for whatever reason. The biggest thing that they think is that it takes too much time. And to a certain degree, there could be some validity into that, but time, I think, is subjective. So like what you think might take a long time I don't think takes a long time, right? But I think most entrepreneurs that aren't making video content because of the time aspect is that they are not willing to give up other things to be able to get the time to do it. It's like I say this, I know that somebody could sit down and make anywhere from 10 to 30 videos, edit them, and post them all in 8 hours on a Saturday. If they really, really wanted to do it. It won't, and if you're not a videographer, if you're not an editor or whatever, they're not going to look pretty, right? But it's the action of making it happen. And as we kind of said before around the ads, like, they don't have to look pretty. It's about your message. And at the end of the day, content in general is just about putting this thing on the screen so that people know who you are, right? So time is a big one for just general entrepreneurs. Limiting beliefs in terms of videographers is they just don't have the scope or understanding of how they can charge more, because they base everything off of their time. And some people can get complacent and say like, well, for my time to be able to do this, X amount is fine with me. But we have to challenge them in the program, or in my program, or in the other program, to charge based on value-based pricing. So what is the potential return for what you can do for somebody else? If I can work with a roofer and I can get him, 10, not even 10 leads, but let's say I had to get him 200 leads a month to get him 10 new roofs. But each roof he profits after expenses.
12 grand?
Yeah. Like, and I only asked for $2,000 a month to do that, and I yielded him 120. I could easily ask for 10. You know what I mean?
You should.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So it's getting them to understand that shift, because that's just like a limiting belief that they don't feel like it's worth it. And if you don't feel like it's worth it, then how are you going to get somebody else to believe that it's worth it?
Yeah, I think you're right, man. I think, like we were talking off camera, I know when I first started, dude, my first video was like $50, right? Like I did it,
yeah, dude,
because I loved it.
Yeah.
But also, like, I was like, I don't even know how to price this stuff.
Yeah.
And the thought of like, okay, $25 an hour is way above minimum wage. Like, that's way too much money,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
So you're right. You look at it as like an hour basis, but really it is value based, like what Chris Do talks about.
Mhm. I love Chris Do.
Oh, dude,
he's so
shout
great.
out.
Yeah, he's so great.
And I think that was like the paradigm shift for me. And I remember when I sent my first like $5,000 package like option, and I was just like,
You said something there that I'm going to go into, but go ahead.
Send, right? And
Yeah.
then you're like, oh, they're going to deny it.
Yeah.
This is way too much money.
Yeah.
And, it worked out. But like, it was that whole sending it and believing that I can fulfill on that, when really it's the same fulfillment that you would do if you did it for 500,
Mhm.
but now it's showing more value. Because I think that business owners too, they won't take you seriously if you're like, I'll do that video for $50. They're going to be like,
Why?
why?
Yeah.
Like, that's cheap.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
concerningly
Or-
cheap.
yeah. But no, you said something there that's funny, that at the program that I coach for, in my own program, that we don't do. We don't send proposals.
Correct. And that's another thing I learned too.
Yeah. Don't send the proposal, because Well, I'll let you speak on that one. What did you learn about why sending a proposal is not a good idea?
Sure. That's a great question. And it's something that very early on when I was talking to my coach about, he's like, walk me through your process. And dude, he just stabbed holes in my balloon.
Yep.
The reason why you do not ever send a proposal via email, post discovery call or post email is because you're giving them way too much time to think about it. Now, don't get me wrong. We're not trying to be mischievous. We're not trying to, hide something from you. But usually when you get done with a 30-minute discovery call, it's going well. They believe, wow, this guy's really going to give me value, which we are. You usually get a couple of the same different reasons as to why. I got to talk to my wife about it. Money's an issue.
Yep. I don't know if this is going to work for me.
I don't know if this is going to work for me. Well, what most people would do would be, well, I understand, Evan, like totally get it. It is a lot of money. I'm going to send you a proposal and just let me know what you think.
Yeah.
Maybe we can talk about it in a couple of days.
Yeah.
Maybe we can talk about it. You're giving them the exit. But if you say, okay, Evan, I completely understand. $5,000 is a lot of money, especially in today's day and age. But what is this going to do for your business if it were to work out? And you're like, oh, well, I'm going to be able to have more time, get more money. Okay. So if I can guarantee you that you're going to have fantastic content, we're going to make it in a way that you understand. How else is it not going to work out? Well, I don't know. Money is always an option, an issue right now. I got to talk to my wife. Okay. So can I ask you a question? What is talking to your wife going to change? If she says yes, or you already know your answer.
Yeah.
Most people, let's be completely honest for a second. Most people, when they're on that discovery call and you're giving all this value, the only thing they're really thinking about is
how much is it?
How much is it? And when it how much is this going to cost me? And then, so when you give them that price and you stand firm on your price, what do you then do? You should, and this is what I've learned, is you don't send the proposal. You say, awesome, when can we start? And we can take Stripe over the phone. And you close them then.
My favorite one is, what do you want to do from here?
Oh, yeah.
And then they'll be like, and then they'll either tell you whatever, and then you can dig deeper into their objections or like.
And I think a lot of that too is, let's be honest here. It's scary, dude. It's scary having the money conversation with anyone, whether you're buying a house or you're buying any kind of commodity.
Yeah.
When you're buying a new car, dude, it's always it's a difficult conversation if you're not familiar with it, of getting comfortable talking with money. But I think what's more important is looking out for yourself in the sense of, hey, like, I know this is very valuable. And believing like, hey, this is actually valuable. I am going to really build their business and being passionate about growing their business instead of like taking the easy way out and just being like, I don't want confrontation.
Yeah.
So I think it's a personal, like, I think it's at the heart of it from both perspectives. It's on the videographer not wanting to have that confrontational, I guess, moment, but also I think a lot of it has to do with limiting belief and not believing that they really are worth the price that they
100%.
are delivering on.
I couldn't agree more, man.
So another thing I wanted to ask is, so you do media stuff. Have you found a niche that you, because I know, dude,
I just made a niche video yesterday, put it on YouTube.
What's your, the riches are in the niche,
So I'll give it to you like this. I'll give you my backstory, and then I'll give you kind of another frame that you can kind of think about it from. When I first started, I gravitated towards like construction-based industries, more like smaller, like general contractors, people that did like lavish back patio setups, like things like that. Because the reason that I chose that was because I knew that particular industry, and we'll call it home service is what we'll call it, because you can feasibly fit all the other guys in there with them. But roofers was, somebody else. So I knew how they were marketing themselves. They were either trying to just funnel as much money as they could into Google, which the shitty part about Google is anybody can just outspend you and win. That's it. Content, and even if you ran content as ads on Meta or whatever, you can still show up without the placement fee, if you will. So I knew that in those industries weren't doing anything there. I quickly found out that there was a lot of education on my end to just get them to understand that, which created this kind of daunting task that I didn't really know if I was up for. Now, I landed a few clients in the niche. The one thing that turned me ultimately away from the niche was being up on a roof in the middle of July here in Houston with 10 grand in my hand. I was just like, no, like I don't see myself doing this like forever. And one thing too, and a side note is a lot of people when they think about picking a niche, they think that like whatever I pick is what I'm doing forever. No, you could do it for 6 months and change to something else. You could do it for 3 months and change, but you have to try different things before you know exactly what you like. The second frame of when we talk about niching is my first mentor. He said that you can niche down in like the industry, right? That's the most common thing that people think about when they think about niching. But you can also niche down in like the method in which you deliver services, right? So you could have a strict, we give you these kind of videos, it runs in this kind of framework, and you can just insert different subject matter every time. And that is possible. The one frame that I think it works best for is for what I'm kind of trying to kind of mold myself into now as in terms of offering video services is podcasting. Because I've been running a podcast with my wife for the past 9 months or so. We really enjoy it. I really enjoy the planning of it, seeing it all come to fruition, and understanding that this arena, like, I mean, there's 3 cameras around us right now, right? But we're literally just talking. It's not like I'm sitting center frame in a camera and I'm like, you'll never grow your business unless you do these 4 things. Like, it's not that, right? Which I think is a lot less pressure for people who might have a fear of being in front of the camera, or they don't feel like they're articulate, but they can have a conversation with somebody. You can be a video podcaster. Like, it's not that difficult, right?
Well, and I think that that's a lot of where the market's going anyway. I know when I made this space, a lot of people were like, dude, why would you make a podcast studio? Like, there's not any podcasters here. I'm like, if you build it, they're going to come. Because, but it's so true, right?
Yeah.
Because any business can make a podcast. And that's why when I get on these calls with people, I have a podcast package add-on, right?
Yeah.
Because I do see the value in it. And for me, it's like we do like a mobile podcast, podcast in a box, if that's what you wanted. But it's because it's so valuable, and what's so fantastic about it is, like you just said, we have 3 cameras. We're going to be making an hour-long podcast out of this, but what comes of that hour-long podcast other than a long-form video? 10 short forms. We can transcribe this and put it in a blog.
Yeah.
There's so many different things that you can use with
Goes
that
out
time.
in emails, like
Dude,
all kinds of stuff.
Everything,
Yeah.
bro. And I think podcasting is the future. I know that I was reading some statistic the other day that as of last year, there's 5.3 million podcasts that have been created in the United States alone.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked off camera how I think it's like seven or 3 episodes to where if you can get past that, you're already in the 1%.
1%, yep.
So the barrier of becoming a pro is so low, dude.
Yeah.
And I think it's great. Like, I know one thing that I've been considering doing is even using my podcast as a lead gen to where, say you're my ideal.
You bring them on. And
Totally. Because,
Yep.
dude, think about it from this perspective, right? Like, I bring you on my podcast. Right now, my big focus is in the plastic surgery and, med spa realm because
Health and wellness, we'll call it.
health and wellness and elective surgeries.
Sure.
Because being in the military, I was in a life-saving service. The girl that I partner with, Jess, shout out to Jess, she was a nurse for 10 years. What better niche to go after for us? And, like we talked off camera, it's so fascinating to talk to these experts like doctors about what they do because they know something that I completely know nothing about. And It's a great opportunity for me to hear about their business. And then through me having them on a podcast, organically talking with them, I'm not trying to sell them anything. You're learning about their business to where it's a lot easier afterwards to be like, hey, Mark, I had a really good conversation with you about being an orthopedic surgeon. I noticed, on our call that you really talked about how content's really a struggle for you. Like, I'd love to jump on a 20-minute call and see if there's something that we can maybe work out to where I can
Yeah.
help you out. Boom. Automatically, instead of a cold call or a cold DM, you spent an hour in that room with
Yeah.
that person, winning their trust, learning about their business, and they're more likely to want to go with you now because they're like, hey, this guy's not what,
Yeah.
Instagram's showing.
Yeah.
He's a real person.
Yeah.
He has a business. So
Yeah.
that's been a huge thing that I'm trying to figure out still on how to do it.
I've seen an ad for a guy. I was seeing him more like last month or whatever, but there's a guy that I guess he has a program where he
Cool.
teaches other podcasters how to, not necessarily podcasters, but how using a podcast can help you find your ideal client. So everything you just laid out there was like, I saw there's an offer out there for that.
There's an offer for everything,
Yeah, I
dude.
know, yeah.
What would you say like is your biggest offer that you're pushing right now? I mean, you don't have to go into specifics if it's confidential, but
No,
like,
yeah. So aside my like one-to-one coaching mentor, I don't do group coaching right now just because I don't have enough people
yeah,
under my belt, so it doesn't make sense to have one. But one-to-one, coaching for videographers who want to grow. My ideal videographer is somebody who really is starting out. And I'm looking for people to start out the way that I started out. So, dude, I took out loans to invest in a program to like really invest in myself. It wasn't like, oh, I had some money saved up and whatever, because you can get buyer's remorse really easily for that. Whereas if you finance it, like it's like if for whatever reason it didn't work out, it's not like I'm stuck to this like huge loss or whatever. But my main offer for like my video services side is getting into helping entrepreneurs here in the Houston area start their own podcast. And I pretty much do everything for them.
wow,
Right? Like I help them through a consult each month, plan their podcast. I've got this thing down to a science. I've been doing it. I've been doing it for 9 months. So we take an hour and we break that down into, depending on how many episodes you want to have per month, we can either have 4 or 5 long form ones. But from that 1 hour, we will generate anywhere from about 56 to 70 pieces of content
wow.
just from that. So
That's fantastic.
each episode generates 14 pieces. So the episode and then all the subs that break down out of it, 14 pieces, and that's either times 4 or times 5, depending on what they want to do.
That's good. Now that's a great offer.
And I just bring them in for 1 hour. Like they just meet me at the location. The location is right by the Galleria off of Sage. And like, I mean, they're already there. They come with their iPad or their laptop, and it's all written down, and it's a very low pressure environment for them to not have to be like on or whatever. If they can bring somebody else to have the natural conversation with, that works good. It's really hard to do a solo podcast.
It's
But
very
some people
difficult.
are made for it. Like I have seen that where it's like, yeah, you can sit down and just let them go. Like it can happen. But I do strongly suggest that you bring somebody because it's easier to go back and forth with somebody else.
You're right, and I know, like what we talked about earlier with this studio, how I have the creator pass. I have people that come in to do podcasts, and we've tried that. And what I've figured out with this is that it takes a lot of people think they just set up a camera, press record, and you just rip. Dude, I wish it was that easy.
Yeah.
But it's not. I mean,
There's there's a whole
I
prep
have
session
notes
that has to
right
go through.
here.
Yeah.
And even when I get some bigger people, you're getting on a call with them prior,
Yeah.
to saying, hey, what are some things you really want to talk about?
Yeah.
Like I know I sent you a couple questions prior of like, hey, these are kind of the guy, like what I want to
Yeah.
talk about. What are your thoughts? But when you get into these more established podcasts and you have people who have been on more than one podcast, it makes it easier because they kind of understand how it goes. But every podcast show is different.
Mm-hmm.
And, everyone thinks it's just like Joe Rogan where they just come on and
No,
they're just
yeah.
like,
There's structure and sequence to it for
what
sure.
they don't understand about the Joe Rogan show or any of these really big podcast shows is that one, it's a business too.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of systems that lead up to you just sitting in that chair with
Of
these bigger
course.
shows. There's
Yeah.
producers. There's, hey, send us, this is an itinerary. Thankfully, I'm not at that point yet, but
And
I'd
the
lo-
bigger ones, you have to pay to go on them.
Yeah,
Like, for
yeah,
most of them.
sure.
Most of them. But I'm all about, like, my wife and I, we are in talks with having a somewhat, I guess, pretty predominant YouTuber on our next batch.
That's awesome.
And he's willing to come on. He wants to actually start podcasting for himself. So I might be the one to help facilitate all that for him.
Produce it for him.
Yeah. But he is willing to come on my show to like get his feet wet and because he doesn't really, he's like, I think I want to start a podcast. I don't really know. He does more of a, I guess you would call it like a vlog style YouTube content. Hits him and his girlfriend, and it's about his family. And
Nice.
he's gone through a lot of stuff in his journey with YouTube. But you know, in a past relationship he was in, they were making money like with YouTube. It's you know, he has his ebbs and his flows, but he knows that he wants to do some new style content and new things. But he wants to get his feet wet with ours, and he offered to come on our show for free.
That's
So
great.
it's like, I already got kind of prepped through a mutual friend. He was like, dude, if they come on, like, your channel's, he's like, you're going to have people rip your clips and make 10 times the views that you probably will make with your clips. And he's like, it's going to be like a whole mind screw to you. And I'm like, it's cool. Like, I'm along for the ride.
So I had that happen with me.
Yeah.
A good friend of mine, who's actually one of the sponsors of this podcast, Rame Clothing, with Dale Mills. He was on the show Outdaughtered.
Mm.
He has like, I don't know, 350,000 followers on Instagram. And you don't really understand like what that metric looks like until you see it. But dude, I mean, I was averaging, I don't know, maybe like 10, 15 views an episode. I don't have a lot of Instagram followers. It's still in the process of getting built. But I remember when I posted my first clip with him, a collaboration post, he's like, hey, collaborate with me.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Dude, I got like, my engagement shot up to like 55,000, like with one,
Yeah.
and I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like, dude, it's just insane.
Yeah.
So there, you know, it's very beneficial to have some of those key people on your podcast to help grow your channel. And I think you got to be really strategic about it to see if it even aligns with your brand.
Yeah, of course.
But dude, it is crazy when you just, and for them, it's just
I
like,
remember we had a short, just a one short from one of our episodes, middle of last month. While I was at my collective, I looked at my phone and I'm like, I called my wife and I'm like, we have 10,000 views on one of our shorts. I was like, this is like, that was the most, like we had, I think the most we had before that was 6 or 7, this is baby numbers. This is a tiny number. Like there's people out there who are probably like, that's it. And it's like, yeah, but if you've never done it before, it's kind of like, holy shit. Like,
dude,
you know,
this, one of our clips, I'd have to look, but I know we put 3 or 4 clips out. Dude, each one was averaging 25,000.
Yeah.
And to me, I was getting, you know, follows, and it was crazy to me, dude. And it is kind of addicting to where you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very cool, man. And I think that what you're doing is like really impressive. I think it's a great business model. One thing I want to challenge you with that is with the structure that we're building out is doing it by season, dude. So like you should do, you know, 10 episodes a season.
Okay.
And you charge them for that season up front to where, so it's
locks them in,
because like we talked about earlier, only, you know, 1% of the people get
Well,
passed.
for me, like anybody that I work with, regardless of what I'm doing, whether it's coaching them, whether it's, you know, doing video work for them, I have a 3-month minimum.
Yeah.
Like you have to work with me for at least 90 days because there's no way to know if anything is worth a damn inside of that.
Totally.
And 9 times out of 10, that's not even enough. Like you need 4 to 6 to 12 months to really know if like this thing is advantageous. The only way to, again, supplement and make that go faster is by infusing more cash into it.
Well, and that's the biggest thing, man. Like a lot of people really struggle with seeing the longevity aspect of it to where they're like, what do you mean 25 grand for 20 episodes or whatever? That's a lot of money, dude. I don't even know if this is going to work. The big thing is though, you're never going to know unless you do it.
Yep.
And it is an investment, right?
But what if? Like that's always the biggest thing. It's like, what if
it works out though?
Bro. Like,
and I think a big thing with that too is people really overcomplicate it. And from the great Don Draper from Mad Men, you know, make it simple but sophisticated.
Yeah.
Right? Like just be very intentional with the content that you're doing. Don't say, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite food? No, like talk to these professionals, or if you are the professional with the podcast, you know, go on askthepublic.com and get 20 topics that people are asking within your industry.
I got a video I'm going to send you after we get out here. I got three answer the public, a ChatGPT method, and then a Google method. that I've got for.
Send them away, bro.
I got it, dude. I got you.
We'll have to do that. And another thing that I have been doing, I'll give the free game, bro, because I don't gatekeep. Another thing that I've found to be really successful for me, dude, as a lead magnet, is, dude, I made a chat bot.
Okay. I have my misgivings sometimes with chatbots, but go ahead.
Well, I mean, this one's taken a lot of. I put a lot of work into this one, and I have one for podcasts, and I have one for the niche that I'm working with. And dude, I just give the lead gen. I'll DM them, or I will email them, and I'll get on a call with them, and I'll just be like, "Hey, I know that this XYZ pain point has been an issue of yours. I just want to give you this.
Yeah.
No strings attached. If you want to hit me up or not, that's fine.
Sure.
But this is going to really bring value to you." And I think that that's been really beneficial for people. And I think sometimes, man, back to like your coaching thing, people just need that guide, right? They need someone to just be in their corner and say like, "Attaboy," or like, "Hey, I believe in you."
Yeah.
So I really think that that's important. But before we wrap this up, dude, I want to just give you the time to shout out just your handles.
Gotcha.
Just any information on how people can reach you. Plug your podcast in there, and I'm definitely gonna be subscribing to it.
Yeah, man. So most of my stuff you can find me on Instagram at @the_Evan Andrews. You can find me on YouTube as well. I believe it's gonna be at Vandrews Media is what I currently have it set up as. But if you also just type in my name, it should come up. Everybody Googles themselves, so it comes up. But you can also find my wife and I's podcast. It's called the 5 Squad Podcast. So the number 5 Squad Podcast. We call our family collective the 5 Squad. There's 3 kids, us 2. Our kids one of our kids have been on the show, but we're trying to get the younger ones on. But yeah, you can find me at vandrewsmedia.com for any entrepreneurs out there here in the Houston area that need help with videography or anything like that. We kind of have a core system and a core strategy that we have going on right now that we can probably help you guys out with. But yeah, man, I appreciate you having me on here. Like, I love doing shit like this, and I've done a few of these before. Obviously, my own podcast, but I love when I can collaborate with people who are just like me. So
no, it's great, and like we talked about earlier, like I don't see this stuff as competition. I see it as value based. Like we're speaking the language. We're kind of riffing off each other, but giving value to hopefully the people who are watching. Yeah. And I really just I love just meeting other creators, and because like we've talked about earlier, social media is such a fine line between truth and
it's
a
hard
facade.
Hard to figure it out.
And it's great just to sit down with people and kind of, 1, figure out really what they're like, but 2, see like, hey, is there any way I can, give value to you? I mean, yeah, come on my show. Like it's all about just giving, man. Yeah. And when you get out of the, the consuming mindset and you get into the giving mindset, you get so much in
100%
in return. So with giving, I got you a little gift.
Oh, man, I didn't bring any gifts for you.
It's okay.
Dang.
It's okay. We got one of the TAOK Creative Studio shirts. So that was when we opened up the studio, man.
Sweet.
And rock it, rep it.
Dude, I got you, bro.
Make it a muscle shirt. Do whatever you want with it. I don't care.
We're going to talk off camera about if I get any if I get people coming towards my offer for my podcast stuff, I'll probably send them here if they're on this side of town.
Hey, man, I'll give you a slam dunk creator pass deal.
There you go, dude.
But Evan,
dude,
thanks so much,
Kyle,
brother.
Appreciate it, man.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Peace, guys.